Again, welcome. Some of you came in a little later than breakfast being served, so I will say it again. It's a pleasure to have all of you here at Moss Mountain Farm for our third annual Builder Summit here on the property. It has been a great pleasure to carry on a long-held dream of mine to reach zero energy with our construction on this farm. And before I get started on giving you some context about the summit and the farm itself, I just want to say thank you to all the people who have traveled for such a long distances. We have people here from Oregon and the East Coast and all the way, our neighboring states, Texas and certainly Minnesota. And we appreciate everyone, and even Canada. So we appreciate all of you taking time out of your terribly busy schedules to be a part of what we're doing here. This conference is all about efficient home building. We believe, obviously, that SIPs are the answer. We're in a disruptive market. Everyone knows that. Everything from interest rates to supply chain issues to labor issues, et cetera. And we're all looking for, to borrow Sam Rashkin's phrase, looking for approaches that are faster, better, and less expensive. And that's what we're focused on here. I'm excited that we have this room is full of a lot of enthusiastic people about construction. I can feel the vibe. And also, you are very innovative thinkers. And I don't want to start this conference without recognizing Terry and Linda Deacon, because they were the founders of Extreme Panel almost 30 years ago. And so they are a great example of innovative thinkers. Just stand up and let everybody give a hand of applause. Yeah. Thank you, Linda and Terry, for being here and for all the things that you've done in this sector of the building industry. It's made a huge difference, and we believe that it's the future. So it's that kind of thinking that will change the way we look at the world, the way we build, and how we will ultimately save the planet. Now, I want to also talk a moment about, you can't do these kinds of things without a great team. And so we have three important teams to talk about here. One, let's give a hand of applause to Chera and her staff for the food and so forth, the hospitality. Also, we have the building team who have been here for over a week. Where you stand up, everybody who's been on the building team. Eric, stand up, give them a hand. Nathan, all these guys, yep. Terry. And then, of course, our sponsors, and there are too many, and I will have to read them. I went to bed trying to recite them in my brain, and I just couldn't hold them all. So I want to thank, where's Mitsubishi? Raise your hand. Yep, there we go. Thank you so much. We've got Timberline. Where's Timberline? Thank you guys for being here so much. DuPont, where are we? Aren't you proud of the Tyvek lasting 2 years on the buildings? Thank you, David. And Progressive Construction Solutions. Here we go. What a man. There he is, John Myers. Happy to have you here. Energy Environmental Building Alliance. Where is EBA? There we go. Aaron Smith. He wears two hats. One of them is EBA and the other is Greensmith, and we will hear from both. He'll be wearing both hats over the conference. Thank you for being here. And his lovely wife, Jennifer. Panasonic, where's our Panasonic? There we go. What do you say, Casey? Thank you so much for being here. SIP Seal, where's Jonathan? There he is. There he is in the back. Thank you, Jonathan. Roycroft Design and Beamery, where are you all? Are they here? Oh, of course, they're, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Burke Energy Raters, very important. Here we go. Yep, we're going to be talking about energy rating very soon. First United Mortgage Group. There we go. And Environmental Lights, you're going to hear from Teresa later. And then we've got Environmental Lights back here. Terry introduced us to Environmental Lights, and we're so excited. I'll give you just a little touch about what's going to happen there. The lights they're putting in the cottages, You can leave those lights on like I do, I'm bad about this, for 6 years and not turn them off and the bulb will stay on, okay? Yeah, right, not today. No, I can't turn them on today. We have no power. We're running on generator power today. Good point, Aaron, thank you. It takes a Smith to back up a Smith, yeah. And most of all, thank you, Extreme Panel. Linda and Terry and the entire team, stand up guys that are here that are with Extreme Panel. Josh, where's Perry? Yep, there's Perry in the back. And I would like to also recognize we have Senator Mark Johnson and his wife Catherine here, and Representative Beck, if you all stand up. They've been very focused and helpful on all the things that we've done here at Moss Mountain Farm. And our county land planner, Van McClendon, where's Van? Please stand up. There he is right here. He's been a big advocate of what we've been doing here at the farm. Okay, so without further ado, what I would like to do is just talk for a moment about, can we dim the lights a little bit so maybe people can see the screen just a little bit better? Great. So I think context is so important. I've always been interested in green building, and when I bought Moss Mountain Farm about 18 years ago, it was just really, there was nothing here. The Moss family had come here about 1838, and I love the fact that it was all organic, and I wanted an organic place in which we could demonstrate the best practices of ecology, the best practices of green stewardship, the best practices of organic gardening and farming and food production. And I also wanted to demonstrate the best practices of building with energy in mind. And so it was really important for me with the first house, the main house here that was built anew 17 years ago, to not only make it look like place and time, Greek Revival architecture, 19th century. We went to properties within a 175-mile radius here to draw inspiration from the design, all the way from the crown moldings to the door surrounds, etc. But we also wanted to integrate the latest in technology. We wanted to build it as green as possible. And I tried to build this property with SIPs then. This is the irony. And I could not find SIPs to build that house. And so we built it, we used foam made from soybean oil. The brick were fired in a kiln that was fired by burning peanut hulls. We did everything we possibly could, even a lot of rainwater harvesting. And this goes way back. So the technology and innovation has changed mightily since then. Then we have a cottage that we built 8 years ago with a partnership with Google YouTube. We built a house in 150 days for $150,000. It's a 1,600 square foot house. And so that was a challenge. Did I meet the challenge? No. It went over budget by 9%. You all know about going over budget, right? Okay, so, anyway, we built that house, and it's been a place that we've been using for rentals now, and our guests stay there, and it's been a very comfortable cottage and meant to look like the 1870s, again, sort of the narrative of this farm. And then 8 years hence to today, we have been building these gatehouse cottages, finally using SIPs and using Extreme Panel SIPs. And you'll be able to tour those gatehouse cottages today, and you'll be able to see demonstrations from our various partners about those cottages. And at some point along the way, I'm going to pull Lou Oliver up here and let him explain really sort of the reasoning behind those cottages and how we conspired to come up with those, because Lou is the designer of those cottages. But we'll be talking about the cottages specifically a little later. As I mentioned earlier today, there are 3 central places to gather here in the lecture hall, also under the tent, and then we'll also be taking the camera crew down to the cottage site so you can see that. And so all of our virtual attendees today they will be able to follow and see what you all are seeing. It's really important because we have a large number of people watching from all over the world with regard to our Extreme Builder Summit. And again, what this summit is, I think, about is really builders talking to builders, and that's how we've tried to theme it. And because we think that the hands-on part of this is so incredible, particularly given where we are in the industry with regard to a declining workforce and knowledgeable workforce. We've all got to work together to figure out how do we get around this obstacle, and I think we can through SIPS and some other things. You're going to hear from some amazing speakers over the course of this summit. I'm so thrilled to have Aaron here and Teresa, and I just saw Amy Matthews, she's here. She put up a SIPS house. Aaron's put up multifamily. We've got Lou Oliver here. We've got just a wide range of people who you're going to be able to hear from. So it's very, very, very exciting indeed. All right, so you were able to see some video about the farm. Are there any questions that you all have about the farm itself that I might be able to answer before we step into our first speaker, who is Mr. Perry Pinsky from Extreme Panel? Y'all want to go on the sleeping porch and have a nap? It was those sweet rolls, right? Okay, all right, we'll get started. So Perry Pinsky is our Director of Sales. He is what I call all our sales guys. They are builder specialists. These guys walk the talk, and his right arm is Josh there, and then we've got others back at the plant right there. Identify yourself, Josh. It's what's so exciting about these guys is they know about how to build. And Perry and I were just in Kentucky. It was a week ago today. We left, I think.
Yeah, we can go today.
Yeah, and so there was a 1,600 square foot slab, and so they said, we want to see what you guys can do with your Extreme panels for the walls. They did not buy the roof from us. They bought the walls from us. We said, all right, we'll show you. So Perry, he had 5 guys that had never seen a SIP.
Never seen a SIP.
Never seen it. They did know how to hold a hammer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he had 5 guys. He set the corner, and in an hour and 8 minutes, all of the walls, the entire structure was in place, ready for the roof truss system in an hour and 8 minutes. I was the timer, so I know exactly how long it took. So it was really very impressive to a large group of folks from the Kentucky Energy Council, as well as a lot of politicians and people from that county and so forth.
Alan, are you aware we have 3 people in the audience from last Monday?
That's right. We've got Sarah. Where's Sarah?
Yep.
There we go. Hey, Sarah. And then we got, where's Matthew? Yeah, he was there. And one other, I
We
think.
have Corey over here.
And Corey, and then there's Corey, right. Very good, yeah.
L.A.,
Yeah.
right? And
Birmingham and Kentucky.
And Kentucky.
Yeah,
All
good deal.
from Alan, that was so much fun because we got there at 5:30 a.m. We were told that we have to be there at 5:30 because we're starting at 5:30. So it's dark out. It's pitch black. And we get there, Alan, and 10 minutes later, we set our first corner, and Alan was taping the first long wall 17 minutes. And then we set the next corner. We're at, what, 24 or 26?
Yeah, I was calling out, okay, 21 minutes, let's
Yeah.
move.
I mean, it was crazy. So the crowd didn't get there till what time did you guys arrive? 8? 9?
And it was finished.
We were done. We were done at 6:45 before the sun was even up. So I think we surprised ourselves a little bit there, but it was so much fun. And Alan,
Yeah.
it was great that you came with me because
I loved it.
yeah, it was a fun day.
We had to have some of that Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah.
All right, now
Yeah.
I'm going to hand it over to Perry. You're going to have the rest of the next 2 days to get to know Perry and Josh and the deacons and everybody on the Extreme team. But these guys are awesome, and Perry's going to tell you a little bit about Extreme itself to kick us off.
Sure.
And then Brent, from a tech standpoint, the mic, do I just need to bring it back to you, or do I give
Yep.
it to Perry? We
Nope,
okay?
I'm good.
Very good.
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Appreciate it. If you guys can't hear me, just let me know. I'll try to talk as loud as I can. What an introduction, Alan. It's just, I got to say, it's so much fun to work for you and to be here at Moss Mountain Farm.
You work with me.
Work with you. And how it's been a life-changing evolution for Extreme Panels and a lot of fun. And to have the builders that came with us for the last 7 days, a lot of them sitting here, to have them here, use them as resources because these guys do it every day. And I'm glad the last 6 days I can barely move my hands. We're a little sore today. we've been working hard, and those guys do it every day. And you have people in this crowd that have been putting up panels for 30 plus years. And Terry Bliss and Sharon, raise your hand. And they're from Minnesota. They're moving back to Arkansas, where Sharon's from. So we're going to have a resource here that's been putting up panels for a long time. We got Todd Erskine. Where's Todd? You're going to hear from Todd. He's going to come and speak. He's been putting up panels, what, 23 years? 22? 20. Okay, I'm giving you a little benefit. It's great. So everybody welcome, and use these guys as a resource. Go to talk to them. All of them are great about talking about panels. They love it, just like we do at Extreme. And I want to give a shout out to Adam in the office and our two estimators, Dylan and Dawson, who are putting stuff together for us right now as we speak. Josh and I are doing the fun stuff here. So anyway, how long have panels been around? Who can? Terry started Extreme Panels, what, 30 years ago. How long have panels been around? Does anybody have any guess? Jack, you can't answer that from SIPA.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright. You got it. You got it. So, I mean, we're literally talking, where I got a point, Catherine? Back there? Let's just try this. Let's get it working.
This is where you have to do your hand puppets.
Yeah. But anyway, panels have been around a long time. Nope, nothing. Do I got to turn it on? Yeah, just click it. SIPS history. Keep going. This is one of the oldest pictures we could find, and it basically is almost like a cardboard plywood skin or something like that, with an interior. We don't even know what that was. Terry, what's your guess of what was in that panel? There wasn't foam at that day.
Corrugated cardboard.
Corrugated cardboard.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, it's been around forever, and they're talking about taking the structure instead of studs and having it on the exterior and interior skin as the load path. And that was the evolution of it, and then panels really got going in the 70s and 80s. And then for us, of course, in the 90s, Terry started the factory in a 30 by 50 shop at his farm, and turned it into what it is today. And we organically have grown through the years, just adding a building, adding a building, adding a building. Well, now we're up to 75,000 square feet in one location. Can you click it some more? Keep going. They were 4x8 panels. They were all hand cut. There are still companies that are hand cutting panels. They have skill saws. They have chainsaws. It's how we've all evolved. And now we're into the beautiful CNC machines, the Hundigers, all the Wyman machines, all the different ones out there. Keep going. Now we're making 8x24 jumbo panels. There's no joints within that 8x24 jumbo panel. There's no lumber within it. It's a solid sheet of foam. And Terry has developed the first of its kind, the automated laminating line, that is fantastic. We can make a panel in 4.5 minutes without a human hand touching that panel. We have one person running a whole line that normally in another factory setting there'd be 5 to 6 people that would be making those panels. With us, we have one guy running a computer system. And it really makes a big difference. Our laminating line runs about 30 to 40% of our production time. So that machine itself can feed several more machines. So our capacity is really great. Terry invented this machine about 3 years in his head, maybe 4 years in his head before it got made. But it has been the best machine, and it really is our secret to what we do and how we do it. And the quality of this lamination is unsurpassed because it's perfectly made with perfect conditions in the right setting in our factory that is air conditioned and heated. So it's all right. Our plant, if you haven't been there, you're welcome. We invite you to come. We want you to come, and it's worth seeing. We can move ahead. So what are SIPs designed to accomplish? We got the strength, And the strength of panels, first of all, is one thing that no one really gets, because we all think we have to have these stud paths coming down. And with panels, you simply don't need it. Our panels are 2.5 times stronger than a normal stud framed wall. And last Monday, putting up that house that was 30 by 50, 9 foot tall, we set a corner and everybody there got to touch it, feel it. They could not believe what they just saw go up in a matter of 2 minutes. We used Jonathan's SIP seal. He's way in the back there. But the SIP seal that's applied during construction adds to the structural strength of the panels that's not even in our engineering data. So when we are putting all this glue and we're creating these gaskets to stop air from migrating through, we're actually making the building 10 times stronger than the numbers actually work in engineering. And because you can't put those in an engineering formula because it's hand applied and you don't know how those beads are going on, that's why we only use the fasteners as their structural strength. Is it moving forward? Labor. So in 1 hour and 8 minutes, with 5 guys that had never seen this system come in before, we installed a whole house. And it blows my mind even when we go out there and that happens, right? And that design was perfect. The day was set up and we actually knew that, hey, we can make this happen if we do a few things. And how we designed the whole system lent itself to it going really quickly. But in the gatehouses you're going to see down here, we have fairly complex little buildings. They're not just a simple box, right, Alan? They're not just simple. No. These things there's a lot going on. I think we had 4 days into each structure. Is that right, Eric? Yeah. I'm trying to think. 4 days each building.
Well, it took 47 minutes to unload the truck.
47 minutes.
It took 5 men 4 days to put them up, wrap them, and put the fascia and soffit on them, and put the roof membrane on them. And they sat there until the next summit, and
Yep.
they were dry as a bone.
Yep, yep. And that's thankful to DuPont with the house wrap and GAF deck armor. Tell you what, that's a wonderful product on top of the roof. And it actually allows our roof to breathe. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But the building science, it's all about the science behind this product. And we have Kevin Burke here with Burke Energy Raiders. And Kevin, raise your hand. And when we're talking about what these buildings can inherently do, just because we're putting up a different product, we can make them look exactly the same as any other building. We can design anything that you draw. It doesn't matter. But you're inherently going to get a very tight envelope without even trying. It simply is our natural way of putting them together. Aaron, you can attest. You take away my thunder. Oh yeah, well, I won't. I'm not even going to go there then. It's there. But the thing is having this as a method that we can, before we've even designed the building, we can tell you what the heating and cooling loads are going to be, and we know that they're accurate. Because our building is so tight, we have no air literally coming through the wall structure or the roof structure. We have to bring that in mechanically, but we know that they're not going to use energy. We know that they're going to save 60 to 70, even 80%. And that is, having that behind us is why we're all here today. And we'll show you a few examples of that. When we put the insulation in, it's perfectly put in. You don't have any voids. You don't have any compression. You don't have any problems with that. We have it perfectly put in to the panel every time. And the guaranteed R value, we know that R value is going to be consistent throughout its life. We know that R value is never going to degrade because we're using the foam that never goes anywhere. We have zero degradation to it. You can't say that with other foams. Other foams have a small degradation factor to them. The expanded polystyrene we use never will degrade. We've done flood testing. SIPA's done a lot of flood testing. Terry's been involved with that. We can go through floods, and it's going to be one of the easiest buildings to take care of after the flood, right? because we don't have insulation that has to come out of the wall. We can simply dehumidify that thing, and it's going to be okay. And what is our structural, Terry? We're 99% structural after a flood?
Yep.
It's wonderful. So we have all that testing. We have seismic testing. We have all these tests done on these panels. So you know that when you're going into this method, you've got your bases covered wherever we're building. Air sealing. Jonathan, I brought up Jonathan earlier. It is important. And when you run the SIP seal gun, you want to have the right guy doing it, right? And it's too bad we don't have a demonstration right up here, because you have to do this quickly. When we put up that hour and 8-minute building, Alan, I was the only guy who ran the caulk gun, right?
You're exactly right.
And you have to know how to do it. We want the beads thick. We want them to go on continuous. None of this starting and stopping and zigging and zagging. You just make sure it's a line. And with the Milwaukee caulk gun that we use, we send out in the package, things will go very, very fast. If we have the handgun that we're using, that we send out 1-2 in case you don't have power, imagine we don't have power and the battery's not charged, right? You can use this handgun. I tried it that day, and it was 50 degrees at that job site, and we would have been there for 4 hours installing those panels instead of an hour and 8 minutes. And you just have such a nice bead. So anyway, the dew point controlled in the wall. So when you have a normal stick-built wall, we have insulation in it, we have whatever's going on within that wall system, you're going to have hot meeting cold, and that's going to be somewhere, it's typically going to be right at the insulation line. In the panel, because we are solid foam, we have hot meeting cold in there somewhere. We have no idea where it's meeting. So you never have a dew point within your wall system. You actually have weather patterns. In Minnesota, where it's 20 below one day and it's 70 2 days later, we have a change in that wall. You just do. But because we're solid insulation, we don't have the voids and the gaps, you will not have a dew point within your wall system. And that makes a big difference on longevity of the wall, the health in the wall, everything in that wall system. Shear walls. Engineers. Are there any engineers here today? One? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. No, I'm kidding. It's good stuff. People love our shear wall bracing, because when you brace a wall, your stud wall, you're putting up studs and you're putting sheeting on it to brace that wall, right? So when we have panels, we have sheeting inside, outside, that solid foam. The whole thing is shear. And our engineers that we deal with all the time are like, oh, thank goodness that's a panel wall in that area. Because the strength it adds to the building. Timber frame, we got Timberline here, we've got Colorado Timber Frame, we've got other Integrity Timbers. They need us. You guys need us as much as we need you, because we help you guys with shear. Those timber frames are built like tanks, and you can put a 747 on top of them, right? But it's the push that's the thing we can help you with. So shear wall bracing is huge with SIP panels. Thermal bridging is virtually gone. So in code, they say continuous insulation. We need CI everywhere. Got to have it. Well, with us, we are literally 3 to 5% of the building envelope that is not continuous insulation. That is so small that we've never had that where we've had to put it 100% on. We've talked to building inspectors. They've allowed it to go, and it's not that big of a deal. We've never had to worry about that as an issue. What's the next one? I don't even remember. Oh, vapor barrier. So what do you normally put on the inside of a house up north in Minnesota? What do we put on, Terry, for if you're stick framing a house?
Visqueen or
Plastic. Poly. Putting on poly on the inside of the house. Then what are we doing when we put sheetrock up on? We're putting a million holes right through that poly, right? With the panel, our inside skin would be the poly or the vapor barrier line. And our OSB is just like the poly. It's got the perm rating that it needs. That is our poly. Jonathan with SIP Seal makes the tape that we put on the inside of the wall to connect our vapor barrier line. When two panels come together, we've got his SIP seal put in that joint of that panel, and then we have the tape on the inside of the wall. If we're down in tropical Mississippi, Alabama, wherever we're at with Brit, we'll probably be putting that tape on the outside of the building because our vapor changes at that point. It's not a very large area of the U.S. that would actually put the tape on the outside, but it's a little bit. You can see the thermal imaging cameras. You know, us sales guys, we've carried these in our vehicles for a long time, just to always know that we can go and look at a house. In Minnesota, when it's 20 degrees, you can see things really, really well, right? It's really fun to go look at. And you put it up at an extreme house, and we simply see no thermal bridging. It's fantastic. So it's not just OSB and foam. Our OSB is different than what you're going to go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and get. It's called a SIP grade OSB, and it has structural capabilities to it, and that's why we have this PRN 610 and 612. They're actually giving us more holding power. There's more compression. There's more resins. We call it structure shield because we have zinc and borate put into the board as it's getting produced. So it's a powder that they put in as they're making the board. The zinc is a preservative, so we're not seeing that the OSB is going to have fungal decay on it or mold on it. And the borate is for termites, where we have termite pockets. You're not going to have that. That's not a problem with our panels. Carpenter ants, they won't go into the panel. They may try to nest, but they're not going to feed because they don't like the borate. So those natural elements go into that wood and into the foam, so we're not having creatures living with us. And the expanded polystyrene, I've had it twice in the last 2 weeks. Is that open cell foam? And the answer is no, it's a closed cell foam. So it has so much moisture already in the foam. You stick that out on the pond back here, it's going to float, right? But it will only take so much moisture on, and then it's done. We also have flame retardant put in the foam. These are all things that we do as a standard. Most SIP manufacturers, you add on, you add on, you add on, you add on. We just do it normally. We want to carry one product. That's it. You don't have options. It's just the way it's going to be. And then also the borate treatment within the foam and the wood. So it's all there. What can we prove? And this is all what it's about. We need the airtight envelope to say that, you know, we're building a better structure than what normally is getting done. It does not require a blower door test for Energy Star, but we want you to do one. We want it done on every building. And I think what we're going to prove with Kevin from Burke Energerator is that the software that he's using and that they are using all throughout the United States is going to be very effective for us. Because once that house gets tested, it gets put on the national registry, and we're very excited to start that process with Kevin and the Ecotrope group. Glenn Baker from Ecotrope, who is in charge of that software, he had an accident this week. He couldn't make it. Otherwise, you would have had another guy here to talk to about the rating part. But Kevin can help us out. He's an expert in it. So our buildings average 1 or below with our wall systems and a normal truss roof on it, which is really extraordinary because code would normally be 3.0 air changes per hour at -50. And we're getting that to a 1 or under. When we put a full SIP envelope, we're averaging a 0.5 air changes per hour at 50 pascals, -50. And it matters because when you're talking about leakage this size in a house, that's incredible, right? And it's all about dealing with how we're bringing fresh air in, and that's what our friends from Panasonic will help us with today. You're going to be able to see the Panasonic bathroom fans and the ERV that they have. We also have Todd Erskine, who is a Zender dealer, and he has it's an awesome product for indoor air quality, but it's all about protecting us, right? indoor air quality. We need these products. We have to put them in our houses. They are so tight that we have to make sure the fresh air is clean for us. Go ahead. So yeah, and we have builders in this room that can get a house under 0.2 air changes per hour, and this is their normal practice, right? So these guys, once they get going on their SIP envelopes and they've tested every one, they're going to beat the one before. They're going to do what they have to do to make sure that they get to that level. And to get to that level, passive house standards are at 0.63, 0.62. And we can do it with our normal SIP envelope without any of their requirements. We don't have to go to an R70 in the roof or an R70 in the walls. We can do it with our normal 6, 8-inch walls and 8 to 10 to 12-inch roof. It's awesome. So as you'll see here, the panel, in this case, we got 3 beads of the SIP seal going down. So whenever a panel is coming down on a plate or getting put together, we're always putting the SIP seal adhesive in. It's that important. It's critical in every aspect. There's not a board that gets put in without it. Nothing goes together dry. If something's dry, there's something wrong. What's going on? Get the glue there. And we can guarantee that R value because the foam is always the same. It never changes its characteristics. And the significant downsides of the mechanical system, we're going to get into that here in the next few slides. It is significant. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. You'll see that when we can downsize and make this equipment smaller, the cost of it comes down, the efficiency goes way up, and things just escalate. Go ahead. So here's some projects. These are enormous, and this is, yes, we do a lot of big jobs, and it's fun to test them because big houses take a lot. There's a lot of air you got to get moving. This is in Cherry, Minnesota. It's up in the middle of it's the arrowhead of Minnesota, kind of north of Duluth, Minnesota. So you've got the design temp being at negative 21 degrees. That is designed for 102,000 BTUs. We have 12,500 square feet. 102,000 BTUs in Minnesota would normally be a house this size, right? Needs that much. This thing is gigantic. And coming in at 0.8 air changes per hour at 102,000 BTUs is incredible. That would normally get sized at 4 to 5 to 600,000 BTUs. And we did it with that small of a system. Very cool. Another one in Spirit Lake, Iowa, 10,500 square feet, 62,000 BTUs. And it tested out at 0.65 air changes per hour at negative 50, a negative 12 design temp. It's just incredible. Beautiful houses. Here's one in Dallas, Texas, 6,900 square feet, 2.5 tons of cooling, which is still hardly anything for that many square feet in Texas. And 0.75 air changes per hour. Todd, is this one of yours? Yep. 2,900 square feet, 0.19 air changes per hour. That's insane, right? And Todd, you just do it all the time. You'll get to hear from Todd later. And are you positive on that house with the 6 kW?
I'm sorry, the solar you mean?
Yes.
It's net zero.
Net zero, yep, yep.
So the HERS rating wasn't done. So
Okay,
there wasn't a positive HERS rating or negative.
okay, sure. Thank you.
Net zero house.
Beautiful stuff. Love it. Another one, 4,000 square feet, 0.33 air changes per hour. This has our walls and a truss roof on it, and they did a really nice job of detailing on that truss roof to get it to that low. Guarantee that just doesn't happen. The builder is taking a lot of time to make sure that everything is sealed off perfectly. Once you get the air leakage under control, everything becomes easier because we know that that's the system. So let's say that same house that they stick framed it, they built it however, and that house comes in at 5.0 air changes per hour instead of 0.33 air changes per hour. Do you know what that builder's got to go through to find those defects? to say, how do I pass code in this area? It's going to cost him a week, 2 weeks. Plus, he's got to find all the problems. Maybe he's got to take sheetrock down to air seal better. Who knows what he's got to do? There's other products out there for that now that could go in and help out the situation. But a builder can be in a lot of hurt if that air changes per hour is not below code. So, and that building back there, huge warehouse. They literally were heating it to 65 degrees with these 2 small heaters. And it was really cold outside. I mean, we're in Minnesota in the winter. They had just put it up, and you're literally working in a t-shirt. You could even have shorts on if you wanted to. But things become different when our buildings are so efficient. At Extreme Panel, with our 65,000 square feet, the month of December, our heat bill is about $350. And that's with an average temperature 10, whatever, 20, or even lower. Then we have a old Lester building, which is a post frame that we keep to 45 degrees for the same month will cost over $900. So the building is completely different, and it's a lot of fun. This was a Habitat for Humanity development. They did, I believe it was 19 units that we did a 12-inch thick wall on for all of them, and they've got the complete solar and PV, solar PV and thermal for water, and it is net zero. These guys, I believe, have to pay in 3 months out of the year, but they get it, the extra 9 months, it's amazing. They just love it. And that's what affordable housing needs to be, is something like that. And I've talked to the tenants that live in that. They simply love their buildings. They're quiet. They're like, an affordable home needs to be something I can live in and I can afford the energy consumption, right? What good is it if your energy bill is going to be $400 a month and you have an affordable house? And I just, I firmly believe that we need to be in the affordable housing sector. I'm on a Habitat for Humanity board, so I deal with 20 houses that our little chapter has, and you see the people that need that house, and you understand why it's so important that their energy bills are not high. And it's fun to be at the end of a build with a Habitat family moving in, and you know that they're going to have a $50 to $60 utility bill in Minnesota in January. I mean, that's fabulous. So here, another big building, 18,000 square feet, net positive with the 40 kW of solar. It's fantastic to do that in that big scale. I want to talk, this one's interesting. So this is a Timberline project, and it's Chris Meyer's project. It's one of the first jobs we did. It's in Shakopee, Minnesota. And Chris is a very knowledgeable guy. He knows what he wants. There's no gray. It's black, it's white. And you better know which side you're on. And he was awesome to deal with, actually. And it's nice when customers know what they want. And he was one that knew what he wanted. He wanted a Timberline project, and we were lucky Timberline brought us on. And I got to deal with him because he's 2.5 hours from our factory. He came out and toured the factory. He loved the SIPs. Since his house has gotten built, he's brought people back into the factory. They're actually starting a construction company, and they are going to be building affordable homes. They're going to be building timber frames and panels. They have a customer across the lake that's going to be building with them. But he got his house tested through the Ecotrope software up in Minneapolis, and actually has the 8th tightest house in Minnesota. And he was like, wow, that just happened. We have our 6-inch walls, our 12-inch roof, and he has windows. He has 4 garage doors. And he's just like, hey, I got the 8th tightest house in Minnesota. And I'm like, wow, how did that just happen? And I was there on site one afternoon. It led into the evening. And it's great being there with a customer when he's putting up the product. He's understanding what's going on, and he did a really nice job. Now, at Extreme, we probably have 5,000 houses in Minnesota, wouldn't you say? Maybe even more. we probably have 5,000 houses that could be the 8th tightest house in Minnesota because they would all have gotten to that specific rating if we'd have had them rated. That's why we are going to get deep into rating. We're going to know what every house is going to be as it ends up, and it is going to be a really fun process. And we're going to have more people like Todd out there that are going to be saying, okay, I want to build, and I'm going to start at 0.8, and I'm going to work myself down to 0.19. And it's a way to gauge how you're doing your building. So it's actually a lot of fun. This was a church, a camp up at Camp Lebanon in Uppsala, Minnesota. We did that. We had 40 volunteers on a job site for 2 days, and that was the end of 2 days of construction with 3 people that had seen panels before. I don't know if there were 40. It sure seemed like there were 40, but there were only about 5 people doing the work, and the other ones were just having coffee and donuts. But it's a lot of fun, and you realize that we can do the complex, we can do the simple buildings, we're capable of it all. And that's what makes our jobs so much fun, because you never know what's coming through the door for the design, and every day is different, so it's a lot of fun. This was, I had to show this. This is Colorado Timber Frame. We got Jack here from Colorado Timber Frame, wherever he is. We actually helicoptered panels to, I think it was Baldy Mountain, right north of by Breckenridge, out in Colorado. And we had to this is at 11,500 elevation. No way to get up there other than walking and the helicopter. And we pulled it off. Every panel cut in our factory. That's not showing the final thing, but it's called the Sisters Cabin if you want to look it up. And it's a retreat, a destination place. You can go stay there. I think it's $45 a night. There's a caretaker that stays there year-round that takes care of the property and cooks for you. And I don't remember how many beds are in it, but you have to ski to it. And so it's a very cool thing, and we were happy to be part of that project. It was really a lot of fun. So what's new at Extreme Panel? What have we got down? I can't even remember. Since 2020, we've doubled our production. We've added 7 people to our process, right? So it's been a transformation that has been a lot of fun to be a part of, a lot of fun to be in the leadership part of. And Terry and Linda, we can say from the 28 years that we did everything and how we got to that point. When Alan stepped in the door, we started making changes just little by little by little by little. It was like week after week after week, a little thing would change, but it all turned into big moves, and it made everything different. And so it's to be able to double it with what we actually had. We actually figured out how to make it not so painstaking, and we made it work. And it's really been a lot of fun. Go back a little bit. Go back one more. I'm not even done yet. I got how much time? 10. Okay, we're good. So we do have a new Hundigger on the way. I don't know if is it on the water yet?
Better be.
It better be on the water. So we're really excited about it. We just all of a sudden found out about 4 months ago, hey, we got another Hundigger coming. It was cool. That was a neat way to find out. Yeah, Merry Christmas. We gotta sell more, Josh. So our 76,000 square feet of plant, soon to be roughly 125,000. We're gonna be adding on next year. We're gonna get that Hundigger housed. We're gonna be doing efficiencies. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So come now, see the factory the way it is. Come in another year, because it's gonna be a whole lot different. And right now we're averaging right around 42,500 square feet a week. Divide that by 192. That's how many jumbo panels can come out. Yes, James.
Gary, could you explain what a Hundigger is?
Oh, Hundigger. So a Hundigger is the Hundigger is what makes our quality. The panels are square. They're true. They're going to come out as designed per our architectural and CAD drawings that we have put out. The panels are going to come out true. And you will hear from customers, from builders, not all panel companies are created equal. They all have different nuances. They have different things. The Hundigger creates precision, accuracy. We know that things are square, true, and real. And it makes that house to go up in an hour and 8 minutes possible because things are as perfect as they can be. It's always rough construction. We all know that as builders. Not everything's perfect, but the panels turn out as good as they can. And that's what that machine does to us. It lends to our accuracy. And comparing to companies that don't have that technology, it makes a big difference. These machines, even our older machine that's now 15 years old, the software is 100% updated whenever they have an update, and everything gets new in that older machine. So we're excited about that machine. The one we have has 3 tools on it, a 38-inch round saw blade, a chainsaw, and a router bit. So we can do circles. And you don't think you might do circles, but we're doing about 10 floors a month for a yurt company now. And do you know what a yurt is? A round tent that they just put up in the middle of the forest. We're doing the floor systems for them. So it's a lot of fun. But our production capabilities, 40 to 60,000 square feet a week that we can produce, put out through the factory. When we get that extra machine in, we're going to be able to almost double that. So we're pretty excited about what's happening.
Hey, Perry, how
Yeah.
accurate is that machine?
How accurate?
Yeah.
It's as accurate as the saw blade. So the circular saw, we have to change it every 6 months, Terry?
Well, all depends.
It all depends on production, 4 to 6 months. Chainsaw, we have to replace every 20, 30 panels. So you can have the thickness of a dull saw or a sharper saw that can be within a 32nd of an inch. You know, that's what you wanted to hear. It all varies on the sharpness of everything. So it's awesome. And it's when we're doing complicated stuff that right now we have Vans Construction out in, in Rosebud. They're doing a circular daycare center, and they're starting the first of 4 buildings. It's circled, okay? It's circular. It's going to make a circle when it's done. This is a quarter of that circle. And how big is this building? 14,000 square foot and 3 levels? 2 levels, round, okay? They're segmented round. You can only do that with a lot of CNC machining. And you're already finding some concrete issues, aren't you, out there? Yeah, construction. You deal with it. You figure it out and do it. The culture of Extreme. Alan has given us wings. Alan has, Josh and I get calls 3 times a day, 4 times a day from Alan. He's always checking on us. How are we doing? What's going on with your day? He wants to know. He wants to know what's happening in the factory. He has been so involved with us, and it's been a lot of fun. Our sales team structure is really cool. We are a team. All of us, we all collaborate. When we have a center table in our main area. When we have questions on a plan, we'll all sit down, we'll collaborate, we'll figure it out, we'll come up with a plan, and we're all on the same page. We all learn the same, we all figure it out the same, so no matter which one of us you're dealing with, the mentality of how it's going together is we can read what each other is doing. And we're not your normal sales team, put it that way. We're a family. And it's really a lot of fun to be part of it, and it's changed so much within the company. You look at other companies where they have a sales guy there, a sales guy there, a sales lady here, whatever, but they never are together. We're always together, always figuring out the best way to do something, and it lends itself to success. And it's so much fun. There's really not a boring day at Extreme in our world. Our builder network, if it's not for these guys putting up buildings all the time, we don't have a business. And they keep coming back with us because we're a huge family when it comes to that. We've had this builder summit now. I think we're on year 10, 11. This will be the 3rd one here. Our next summit that we're going to have, people from Minnesota and the Dakotas and Iowa and Wisconsin have been asking, when are we doing it up north? we're coming back. We'll be doing one in the next year plus. We haven't been able to do it up there because of COVID, and where we have it, they can't get staff. So it's been rough that way. So we're going to do it again. Don't worry. And we love you guys. Just know that we're coming back. So our developers are marketing the strengths. Developers are looking at SIPs different than they've used to, because now they're saying, if I'm going to own this building, it's going to be energy efficient. This really makes a lot of sense. And it's like the light bulb turned on in the last 6 months to a year for that. It's been great. And SIPs are very attractive if you're retaining the building for your own ownership. So it's been, Extreme is a lot of fun. Get to know us. And Alan, you've changed us for the better. And Terry and Linda, you started it, you made it, and thank you to all three of you. It's been fun.
Terry, thank you. That was fantastic.
You bet.
What I would like to say is that Terry and Linda are very much still a part of Extreme, and they're on our weekly leadership calls and so forth, so we certainly depend on them. I think there are three things that differentiate Extreme that have been important areas of development. Some of those were already in place when I came along, and all three of them are all about how do we help our builders. We're really focused on how do we help the customer. And Terry and Jeremy and the team and Josh and Perry had figured out long before I came along that let's make sure when we ship a package, let's make sure we ship that package with everything that builder needs. Like I say, you can show up in your pajamas as a builder and everything you need to put that building up is there. No going to the hardware store, no going to have to pick up this or that. It's all there because time is money. You all know what I'm talking about here. The second thing is the culture in terms of how we communicate. We don't just take orders. We listen to the customer, and you've got the sales guys who, like I said earlier, are builder specialists. Okay, they understand construction. So they're looking at your drawings, they're going, have you thought about this? Are you sure you want that? And then they hand them over to the estimators who are working right there with them, and they go, well, what about this? Well, maybe we ought to ask them about that. And then we have project coordinators, not to mention the drafting department, who are all asking questions on behalf of the builder, trying to help the builder out, trying to help them get the best product, get exactly what they need. And we like to communicate. So there's somebody that answers the phone. It's not a menu. You get an answer from Jody or Sarah or one of the sales guys, and they return calls. Imagine that. They return calls. And you're not getting a menu when you call. So it's all about customer service and making sure that we have that customer service, which is really important. And the last thing is that we have developed what I call a builder's network, where if you've got a project going on, and I can count 5 of them on one, 5 on one hand, yeah. That math works, doesn't it? Where these guys have, they show up on the job. And so they help you understand how to get started with SIPs, because we know that it's sort of a foreign animal to a lot of folks. And so it's not like you're just out there on your own. Here's a document, read it, figure it out. These guys show up, they're gone almost, just like Perry and I were in Kentucky a week ago, demonstrating how to do it. And we know that there's a reduction in labor force, and we know that's an issue that's going to continue to grow in this country, skilled labor force. And so we are developing a product all the time, looking at ways, innovating the products we're doing at Extreme to make it easier for the builder. So that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. All right. Your next speaker is Aaron Smith. We're the Smith brothers, right? And Aaron will be wearing his he'll be wearing his Greensmith cap to speak to you about his experience building an amazing project in Laverne. I guess, I mean, I don't know what he's going to speak about, but my personal connection to Aaron and watching him as a Greensmith builder is what he did in 11 months with Nate Reinisch in one of the coldest winters in Minnesota, built two 27-unit multifamily houses in, I think, less than 11 months, and their occupancy is crazy, and he's just done a fantastic job. And Aaron, what I want to say about you is he also heads EBA, and he is a tremendous leader. If you could have been at the EBA conference this past September in Phoenix, I mean, the whole thing had such a great vibe about it, Aaron. I mean, hats off to you. And the leadership and all of that occurs right at the top, and I give you complete credit for it. Even though you got a great team, you're heading the charge. And the year before, you know, we were in Denver, and it was just fantastic. So if you're not a member of EBA, really check it out, because there's so many great resources that EBA provides. So Aaron, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say, as part of our partnership with Extreme Panel, that we'd love to offer all of your Extreme Builder Summit attendees a free membership in EBA. There's a code, EBA Partner. So just write that down. If you go on the website, you put EBA Partner in, you get a free membership at EBA. The conference is great. I mean, we love it. We get to all come together. We'll be in Salt Lake City next year, October 10th through 12th. I would say, you know, I've got an MBA, and it was great, but the MBA I got at EBA was even better, because it was real life stuff. But if you're looking for education on some of these areas we're going to talk about, I mean, we have great education from Panasonic, and great education from SipSeal, and great education from did I say Panasonic? Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking at how to integrate cold climate heat pumps into my project, how do I use this new technology? It's there, and it's even a bigger builder network. And I think when we talked, and I had the honor of being part of the Extreme Builder Summit when we had to do virtual with Alan.
Yeah, over COVID, yeah.
But we said, you know, my belief is SIPS it's a silver bullet. But there's 5 more silver bullets we got to do. And actually tomorrow I'm going to talk about 10. I think I put 10, but it's really 13. I guess there's 13.
Stop, 13's enough.
I guess there's 13 silver bullets. And I so badly wanted it to be 14. But no, thank you, Alan. Is my mic's good, and you're going to click for me.
And now you're getting another.
Is the clicker going to work?
You're going to get.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, and you're getting another MBA with Greensmith.
Yes, Masters in Building.
So I give you Aaron Smith.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Well, I mean, I first want to say I know less about SIPS than anyone in this room. And I would say that I recall watching about SIPS on This Old House episode, and I must have been 12. And I don't know if you remember, they built that house up in Mass. And I literally thought, as a 12-year-old, why isn't everyone building this way? And learned more and more about it, and got a chance to meet Don and Perry, and got a chance to get out to the plant. And I didn't change much from 12. I always thought, why isn't everyone building like this? And I'm inspired by you gentlemen as well, because I thought the same thing. There's a lot of things that need to change in this industry, and some of the incumbents are not going to be able to change. I've written a couple articles about what Elon Musk did to the automotive industry. I really believe that the builders in this room are the people that are going to transform the building industry across this great country, and our friends in Canada as well. So I'd rather have this be a town hall forum. I'm going to talk not about so much about the how. You know more about the how of SIPS. I'm going to talk about the why from a developer's perspective. Why do we see that SIPS and sustainability are ultra important? And then I'll talk more about the nuts and bolts from a developer side of what happened. But Greensmith Builders, I really set it up to be a developer of all electric, net zero, build to rent communities. So if you can unpack that a little bit, I live in Climate Zone 6. I mean, I had the utility company on our next project telling me, oh, you can't do all electric. And my architect and I said, okay, we're on the right track. If they say we can't do it, we know we're on that bleeding edge. You know, we want these projects to be lighthouse projects. We want to be able to share them. So that's our ambition. We started in January of 2021. Sorry. The current situation, I talked a little bit about this. We think that the industry is ripe for disruption, similar to what Tesla did to the automotive industry. Residential construction has not changed. I learned from my grandfather, Leslie Smith, and not a dang thing has changed since I was building with him. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing. The waste in this industry is incredible. Sorry, go back one. Got two more. There's incredible stakeholder resistance to change. I have a good friend. He wants to switch to SIPs. He went to his framing crews. He said, I want to build with SIPs. And they said, we're not doing it. We'll quit. What? Turns out when you're a builder, there's 7 vetoes, isn't there? So we said, we're going to start from the ground up, that we only do SIPs. We're going to get great partners like PCS and like Nate Hextra Construction that work with us and say, no, that's the right way to go. This is how we're going to do it. I'm a huge believer in building information modeling as well, and we'll talk more about that as we go through. But this is the big thing. I don't know. Nate's a young guy. Eric and I are not young. Who else? These guys are kind of young over here. But the problem in this industry is a lot of times I walk in a room and at 51, I'm one of the youngest builders or developers in the group. And we're aging out and these young kids don't want to do it. So what are we going to do fundamentally as an industry? We're, I think, 4 million units behind for housing across the United States today, and we can't get any kids to come out to the job site. So I think that SIPs fundamentally address this lack of labor that we have in the industry with the speed to build. Now we can go. All right, here's the exciting thing for all of you. So again, this is the why. I would say I market my projects to millennials and generation Y. The boomers love them too, which is great. But what do the millennials say? 56% say that millennials will invest in a modular home. That is a huge shift from the days when it was a modular home is a trailer home, right? It's Clayton Homes. Maybe it's a cabin up north, but that's it. 56%. And this is the big one. Millennials are environmentally conscious. They're seeking energy conservation. They want open spaces. They want walking trails, and they want sustainability in their home choices. So we're seeing this huge shift today. Next one. Part of our thesis as a company was what's called Zoom towns. Has anybody heard of a Zoom town? And this great reshuffling. People are moving from the major cities across the United States, and they're seeking rural communities with open spaces, with green spaces, with great schools. That's where they want to live today. So I say that we invest in Mayberry. We're looking for towns that are like Mayberry. That's where we're going to build. That's where we're going to invest in people's communities. There's an exodus today to suburban, and I call it ex-urban. So this is not the cornfield just outside of Minneapolis where I live. This is the further out town, right? And I'll talk about a couple of those. Our mission statement, all electric, net zero, attainable and sustainable. So we're not building, you can do net zero all day long on a $2 million house. Can you do it on a $400,000 house? I don't know, right? Some of us are about to find out, but it's more difficult. For our investors, we deliver, this is a word I'll talk about, ESG. I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Environmental, social governance. I'm an old hockey player. I think about it as people, planet, profit. It's the new triple bottom line in your business. So that's what a lot of companies are looking for in ESG investments. So that's what we want to deliver to our investors. By the way, I'll talk about this tomorrow too. There's not enough ESG projects out there for the money globally that wants to invest in them in real estate. If you can position yourself here, you can open yourself up to more investment. Next slide. This is my partner, Mark Wigder. We met in regular grad school, not the MBA, not the Masters of Building Administration. But we really both believed in this. Mark's been doing commercial real estate for a long, long time. I came more from the residential side. We kind of met in the middle with multifamily housing. So what's an exurb? They lie just outside the suburbs. We want to target small town, rural building in Mayberry. It starts with a digital twin. I will tell you on our first project, we didn't do a digital twin, but it's our ambition going forward to design this completely in an AutoCAD Revit-based environment, to understand everything about the envelope, and to really, I talked to Alan about this, but I want to be able to hit a button that orders that project from EPT. I want to have A, B, C, D apartments that we build, and I say, Alan, I want a C apartment. Perry, Aaron wants a C apartment. Hit send. That file goes to the Humdinger machines and the CNC machines, and it starts to create that building.
And Nathan puts it up.
And Nathan and PCS put it up for us. There's also some real-time things that you can look at from an installation error. There are now robots. We've all seen it. Our cabinet guys use the laser level for putting up the cabinets and getting them perfect. But there's literally a robot you can put in the apartment building, and it sits there and goes, electrician, that's not the spot for that outlet. It goes here, right? So there's that ability to bring some robotics into this equation. Next slide. I just took this off, but it is our firm belief that off-site modular manufacturing from EPT is the way to go. That it saves time, it saves labor. We're opening the buildings that much faster. Next slide. So now this is in terms of apartments, but I think the traditional apartment building, you're going to see it get done in 12 to 24 months. And in our case, next slide.
Look at that waste.
Yeah, the waste is.
Go back.
No, that's why I took that picture. This is your typical job site during framing. Nathan can attest. We tipped one dumpster building 54,000 square feet, if I'm right by the bills. Does that sound about right?
Right.
So 54,000 square feet in 16 weeks. I tipped one dumpster out on site, and I don't know. It was some, we were cutting some ends, and I mean, a lot of people were taking it for firewood in town, So, but the goal is under 365 days. So again, thanks to Tom at PCS and Nathan's great team, we started, when did we break ground on that, Nathan? I've blocked it out of my memory, but November 15th?
Yeah, I don't know when the concrete's for sure started. But
It was in November.
Started in January. We started.
You started in January.
You guys started.
So,
in November.
but we dug the ground in November. Luckily, last fall, we had pretty good weather. We were able to keep going up in Minneapolis. And we moved people in 3 weeks ago to that building. And we started framing in January, right? And we were
paneling in January.
we started paneling. I didn't know.
Changing
So-
the lexicon.
I think this is the great part. So we had one subcontractor and their teams that worked with us. We had the roof on in 16 weeks. We had at least 4 weeks of weather delays, particularly at the beginning, right, Tom? Like we were frozen out at the beginning. We were able to get some of the floor plates down, some of that. But I would say 15 weeks, 11 guys, Nate, give or take, not counting the crew we had to let go. It was worthless. They weren't doing much out there, but basically 11 guys, 54,000 square feet, 15 weeks, and I'm talking January, February, March, and April in Minnesota. It was not ideal, right? So what could we have done? What lessons did we learn? How can we do it faster next time? I'll talk more about the air scene in a little bit. But I just want to talk about electrification strategy. I'll dive into this more, but this is always the goal. I mean, we have EV fast chargers in our apartment buildings. We have an electric range because we couldn't afford the induction cooktop on attainable rental housing. We have heat pumps for space heat throughout that building. We couldn't do heat pump water heat because the building wasn't designed that way. We bought the project. Our electricity out there is 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour, which means a battery is not worth it on the peak off peak. There's no battery there. But we did do a load center upgrade from Schneider Electric. I think I've got a picture of it in the deck that I'll show to you. But we actually have a smart meter in every panel in the apartment. We went from, so I would have had to have 27 plus 1, right? 28 electric meters on the building. I have 1 electric meter on the building, and I have a Wiser Smart sensing system in each panel. That literally senses what everything is doing in that unit, sends me the exact BT or kilowatt hours that that unit is using. But do you know what it costs you for the pleasure of having an electric meter? Base rate. Does anybody know? Per year, right? Now, in my particular municipality, it's $15 a month, which is not bad. Times 27 times 12. So I saved what, $1,500, $2,000 a year by not having those. Then when I add my solar to the top of the building, I now can what? I can backfeed the entire building with solar, because if you have 28 meters that are disaggregated, you can only backfeed your common space. The rest is dumping to the grid. So I wanted that ability for that building to be resilient, for it to have solar, for all that solar to be used at site. I want to consume it all as part of our decarbonization strategy, right? One thing on the HERS Rater, I always recommend to builders, if you don't have a HERS Rater on your team, get one. We have a great HERS Rater right over here. They will get you free money. Get you free money. I got the 45L tax credit on this project. $2,000 per unit, $108,000. I got the municipal rebates. I just got the final paperwork, $23,000 for putting in the heat pump, for putting in LED light bulbs, for putting in Energy Star appliances, for doing all that. So there are some great rebates that you can get. If you're not using the 45L tax credit today, you need to be. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. I have, as the developer, I have the Energy Rater work for me because I'm paying for the building. They're another set of eyeballs on the building for me. They ensure third-party certification of what's going on the site. I don't like them working for the GC if I have a separate GC. That's just my take as a developer. So I write that in the contract. They work for me. Also, you get the 30% rebate on solar. One thing for commercial projects that you'll find is you get the 30% rebate on solar, and then with straight line depreciation, you can capture about 60% of the total cost of your solar. Now this is state of Minnesota, check with your state, right? But the 30% is the credit. The depreciation schedule is from the IRS, so this shouldn't matter what state you're in. 60% of my solar is paid for within 3 years. I'll stop for questions because I said town hall. Jack Armstrong always has great questions for me and is a great friend, by the way.
I was going to say, one of the there's a lot of resistance for people to pay the extra fees to bring a HERS Rater online. HERS Rater sees hundreds of projects a year. You're building like 1 project, 2 projects a year. So the amount of wisdom that a HERS Rater can bring, it's worth all the consulting money you think you're wasting. You're going to get so much wealth of comparison, contrasting, and
I mean, you're going to see me tomorrow. First thing I'm going to tell you, number 1, get a HERS Rater on your team. And it was crazy. We were putting in the Panasonic ERVs, and the HERS Rater came in. He goes, the guys use sheet metal screws in there. You know what that means? The damper's not going to open and close on your ERV. I'm like, what? That was not what I expected. But to not have those ERVs work in the building would have been horrible, right? So lots of great benefit, and I got back more in rebates than it cost me to do the HERS Rater. I think it was $10,000 per building for the 45L tax credit. Next slide, please. So I won't talk about healthy home strategy, but part of sustainability is it's not just energy, right? It's the health of the occupants in the building. This is where you need to be thoughtful on your selections of materials. I think I have a picture of 0 VOC paint going in my building. It does not off-gas. It never smelled like I was freshly painting my building, which is a good thing. You're very thoughtful about what flooring you put in. You're very thoughtful about what's in the cabinets. You want no added urea formaldehyde. You want CARB2 compliant materials. So you're just very thoughtful about that. And I will tell you tomorrow, I think it's number 6 on my list. Thou shalt put an ERV in your building. I don't care where you live. If you don't, where's Panasonic? Let's hear it. KC.
Yeah.
Amen, brother. You don't put an ERV in your building, you're negligent as a builder. This is the most important thing you can do. Perry just bragged, so yeah, we got the silver bullet, it's SIPS. We got another silver bullet, it's air tightness, it's energy, it's insulation. You don't put that ERV in as a silver bullet? The indoor air in buildings is 7 times more polluted than outside air. I've got to bring fresh air into that building. I don't even care if you're a timber framer. You tell them they gotta have an ERV in their building. No extra charge, Casey. You owe me a coffee. Nice coffee.
Build them tight, ventilate right.
Amen. I've got a tattoo of that. So this is our project. This is Greensmith Builders Phase 1. 54,000 square feet, 54 units, identical buildings in each building. It's in Laverne, Minnesota, just 25 minutes. It's probably 28. Depends how fast you drive. There's a construction zone out there, but it's pretty close to Sioux Falls and about 90 minutes south of the Cottonwood plant. I will invite you all, if you're coming through. I know Eric just came through and got a chance to see it. I'm generally there on Fridays. I'd love to take you on a tour so you can feel the building. That's the difference to me, right? If you go back one slide, sound control and quiet in a building is a human health strategy. I've never been in a quieter building than a SIP building. It is just peaceful in there. We were out there on Friday, and MediaCom finally decided to show up at our building and put cable in and internet in. And they had the huge generator out there, the huge backhoe, and we were in the corner unit, and you could not hear it.
Interior wall.
Next slide.
Hey, the
Yeah.
interior wall. Does anybody know that you did the interior wall?
We're going to show it. Don't take away my thunder. You can't tell this guy anything.
No, you're just talking about sound.
We tell him next year. I'm not presenting. Next slide. So, why did I, as a developer, pick Laverne, Minnesota? This is a gorgeous, forward-thinking small town. They've got industry coming to town. They've got a net inflow each day of something like 1,200 cars coming into town. They do not have enough housing in that town. And it's so cute. Like if you were filming an episode of Yellowstone or some great show, like it would be in that town. And I always say I invest in cute small towns. I don't know what that means till I get there. But I know that Laverne had it, right? We're right on a bike trail. There's this Blue Mound State Park. Nearby Sioux Falls is consistently rated as the top place for millennials to move. But Sioux Falls, when we looked at this project, there were 7 houses for sale in Sioux Falls. You couldn't get a house over there. We also had really high rent rates over in Sioux Falls. So we felt like that could translate to our market. A lot of new investment going on. And this is, if you're looking at apartments or looking at multifamily, we're in a tax increment finance redevelopment area, which has some significant advantages for the builder. We bought the land for $1. We got a grant for low income or workforce housing from the state for $680,000. It is in an opportunity zone. If we hold that property for 10 years, we sell the property and we do not pay capital gains tax on it. So they're looking to partner. This is public-private partnership at its finest. They're looking to partner with developers to bring housing to their town. So great working relationship with Laverne. Next slide. So here we're starting. We used a insulated concrete form on the building. And you just stop me anywhere that you want, right? So ICFs throughout. This is complete sealed foundation. We have radiant floors in the slab, the second and the third floor. So we did the Gypcrete pour on there, all radiant. We felt like in Climate Zone 6, if we lost power, we want that thermal mass in the building to keep running, right? Somewhere out here is Nate. And John's guy Tom was back in the trailer with me. I probably just opened the door of the trailer and took this picture. Like, good luck, Nathan! Nathan is incredibly resilient to cold. I couldn't believe it. But we had to shut down at usually -10, -7. But the guns were freezing. So, and Nathan's got this incredible, if you get a chance, he's got this SIP workbox with heaters in it, and he keeps all his glue in there and all his guns in there, and he's keeping everything warm inside that box, and he's lifting it up with the lull onto the site, and we still would freeze out somewhere between -5 and -10 degrees, and it was time to call it for the day and for everybody to head home. So there the guys are planning it. The one thing I would say, we thought we had, and somebody else saw that, you mentioned it on the foundation. This foundation was, are we recording this? I have to not disparage anyone. Okay, the foundation wasn't good. I thought it would be pretty flat and level, and it was not. And that cost us a lot of time, right? Because we were messing around with the first floors and shimming everything and getting it level and fighting. We were fighting, and that slab was almost 2 inches out. The north building was 2 inches out. The south building was 1.25 inches out, roughly in there. So I would really get on the contract with my, because if the more perfect that slab is, I see some other people have had some pain and suffering with this, that would have saved us a lot of time. One thing I want to point out on decarbonization strategy, I think this is a unique attempt, but this is our elevator shaft. So we use SIPs for our entire elevator shaft all the way. We did a steel beam at the top to carry the load. But from a decarbonization perspective, and actually a time perspective, to drop SIPs in, boom, 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 3 stories tall, versus block concrete for the elevator, and we're all waiting for the block guys to get it done, and they got to build a tent around the dang thing because it's winter in Minnesota and it's not hot enough, right? That went up really, really quickly. And when you think about decarbonization or the greenhouse gases, one of the worst things in buildings is concrete. So when you can take concrete, you could put, what's the stuff? Yeah, fly ash, thank you. You can put fly ash in, you can put recycled content. There's things you can do to make it better, although that may not be available from your local supplier. But there's things we can do that are thoughtful around decarbonizing concrete. But the easiest thing is use SIPs instead of concrete. My grandfather and I remember framing 2x6 walls for foundations, green tree in Minnesota, and putting them on crushed gravel. That's still in the code. And I'm really intrigued with the SIP foundation as well, because it's a huge decarbonization play. I mean, you saw my ICFs, but there's no reason I can't use SIPs into the ground. That's a ton less carbon. If concrete industry was a country, it would be the largest emitter on the planet.
For every pound of cement powder manufactured, 0.7 of it is CO2.
And it's because it's like 2,000 degrees. They got to make that stuff at, right? Off gases?
For 100 years.
For 100 years. Okay. Any other comments? So it comes out of the ground. It's good. If it off gases for 100 years and you have to heat it to 2,000 degrees, it's probably not as good. So I just want to bring that up, as that was one of our decarbonization strategies. The other was wood decks. You can go buy the really nice, those metal decks that hang off the side of the building that every developer on the planet is using now. They're like $15,000 a deck, which I thought was a crazy price. There's also a ton of carbon in that steel or aluminum or whatever the heck it's made out of. We did wood decks. It's beautiful cedar. I like it better. I like the smell of cedar. Call me crazy, right? So part of the decarbonization strategy. Next slide. So here's the guys out on the job site. We're setting the second. So we ended up we did 1, 1, and then we did 2, 3, 2, 3 on our staging. And part of it was we were waiting on some material, but we knew we had to mess around with that first floor a little bit more. Although we had it a little bit better figured out by the second building on what to do. But okay, when I say I use SIPs on this building, I may have a picture of the closets in the building made out of SIPs, which I wouldn't recommend. In fact, I called the guys and said, I think we can value engineer some of this stuff. And they said, that's what we told the last owner, or the people that we bought the development, right? And they had put everything in there in SIPs. But this is really nice on the demising walls. You can see This is the ceiling. So the entire ceiling of that building is spray foamed. Any of the penetrations were fire sealed or caulked. Actually, underneath the tub showers, we flashed it with closed cell spray foam. And the entire rim of each unit, we flashed with spray foam. All 4 sides, not just the exterior wall, because you want compartmentalization of each of those units, right? Because that's sound control, it's energy efficiency, it's smell control in your building, and it is so nice and quiet in there, right? I think we had the radiant slab running, and even we had plywood on the outside, but it was nice and warm in there. Once we got inside, it was pretty good. All right, next slide. So here's the guys going up, typical floor truss system, setting the elevator shaft. Here's something I didn't realize about SIPS. This project, anybody familiar with Buffalo Ridge? This is where most of the wind power in the Midwest goes. Most days the wind blows about 45 to 55 miles an hour. I can tell you that if we would have had to, if I would have set this wall and we would have gone home for the night, we could have braced the heck out of it, and we would have come down the next day and it would be gone. We had, see this stack of two, these are 2x4 12 footers or 16 footers. I have camera footage from our security cameras on the site of these blowing around the job site. Do you know what kind of wind it takes to pick up a 2x4 16 footer? Yet, were we ever out of rack when we came back the next morning? So that was a huge advantage in a high wind load environment that I didn't realize going in. Any questions there? Don't forget your OSHA safety rail.
We saved a lot of money on bracing too.
Incredible amount on bracing. Yeah, because generally you're using the interior walls to brace the exterior walls on the site. Nate, I even got you in the foreground there. Pretty nice, right? Yeah. I should tell y'all, because I want to use Nate again on my next project. Nate's actually horrible. You do not want to call him or use him. But no, Nate's the best, but don't steal him from me. All right, so here we're going up to second floor. We've got the lulls out. The guys are setting it, working across. We do have regular trusses on the top. I just thought this is such a beautiful image. This is John's guy, Tom, standing down there. We did have steel stairs, which probably from a carbon perspective, I would just change out to wood stairs going forward, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility. It's not that big of a deal to frame it. The guys were really careful on SIP seal everywhere. I do want a special call out to John with SIP seal. So did any of you get to the point where there was no PL400 in the world? Anybody remember that? It was literally about February of last year. You couldn't buy PL400. No one had it. And we're putting our subfloor down. I called John. John, are you rated for subfloors? Yep. Send me a pallet. So we actually used SIP seal for all the subfloors. And I know a lot of guys do this because it keeps that, it keeps its plasticity throughout and really helps get rid of the squeaking. So we used a boatload of SIP seal in there. There's a project going on. Questions? Next slide. There's these guys they just got out of work release. Came out to the job site. Really nice to see them. Free and out. There's the third story going up. Here's so we used exterior fire rock on that elevator shaft so it could sit out in the elements as we got framed up, which was nice. We do have regular trusses in the top. One thing we did, we flash sealed the entire attic space with closed cell foam. So we just put like 2 inches of closed cell foam on the whole thing, and then the rest in a blown insulation. And that gave us that air tightness from the top side, the lid side. These are our ERVs from Panasonic. So that is the fresh air or the lungs of the building. And what do you need to do from now on? Okay, install ERVs. Get with KC and Panasonic. They make probably the best one. So that's our ERV system. One thing I want to point out, so look, this is the wall to the bathroom from the living room. This is the washer dryer closet. This is the bedroom wall. Kitchen's right here, bedroom wall. The wall between the two bedrooms, it sips. It is so nice and quiet inside of these units. And people say, where's your tornado shelter? I'm like, I don't know, anywhere in here? You're pretty good. Get to an interior wall, obviously. But you ever heard it's built like a brick shithouse? I really, as this was going up and the guys were working on it, I was like, man, this thing is built like a brick shithouse. I felt very proud of it, and it was something that I invested in. I do want to share with you, $22 a square foot for the entire framing package on this project. Framing, $11 a square foot and change on the entire project. So I thought, very good numbers for the speed we were able to do. One of the things we did, and I don't want to offend DuPont, but I'm going to go back to the wind. We literally got to the point where we said, we can donate Tyvek to the county just east of us, or we can do fluid applied weather resistant barrier. And we had to wait for a day when the wind wasn't blowing so hard to spray on a fluid applied weather resistant barrier. So this is a little bit more of a commercial construction technique, but we executed it here because we literally didn't think we could keep Tyvek on our building. Next slide. So sheetrock, this is our manifold for our radiant system on each floor of the building. I talked about the health impacts. This is literally, it says on here, 0 VOCs, 0 volatile organic compounds. That's what you want for paint. Sometimes you add a tint to it. You're not going to get 0 VOC, but you're going to get close. Be thoughtful in the paint that you select for your occupants. It's important. Here's the radiant system going through each unit. Down the hallway as we're finishing up. This is our load center from Schneider Electric. If you need a load center or any sort of transformer, they take about a year to get right now. Order it before you get the building permit. That's how long it'll take. But there's basically 1 meter on this building. Everything is run out of that Schneider load center. Each box has something inside. Here's our parking lot going in, and you're seeing the finished building there. Here's a couple views from the finished units. It's just, go back one if you don't mind. It's beautiful country out here. Here's the new bike path. This bike path will continue and wrap up to our parking lot. Our next, go back one. Our next EPT project will go right here. So we're looking forward to that. Next slide. So I got a couple pictures. These are our heat pumps. So this is our heating and cooling system. I think in the 1-bedroom units, we're about 600 square feet. We have a 12,000 BTU. On the 2 bedrooms, we have an 18,000 BTU heat pump. This unit, even when it's running, this is a Datsun unit, and my apologies to Mitsubishi. It was designed this way, so I was stuck with it. But it turned out to be a nice unit out of Canada. Super quiet, even if you're sitting on that deck. That fan barely runs on the outside. Next slide. So now here's some finished photos. So about this time, I want to point out, we did, thanks for that. We did the air testing. So we blower door tested every unit in the building at 50 ACH, right? Now, I don't have the volume that a house has. They will tell you that blower door testing is prejudiced against tiny houses and apartment buildings. If I blower door tested at 50 ACH, I think 27 units in that south building all came out around 1 ACH, which if I had the volume, I'm probably at like a 0.2 overall. Our target was 1.5 to meet Zero Energy Ready Home program. We beat that out of the park. So again, I think the combination of really being thoughtful on the SIP seal as we put everything together, and then actually we SIP sealed every joint as well, and then we spray foamed it, and then we insulated it, and we didn't have to use aero barrier. We thought maybe that we would, but I wanted to see how it went without. We didn't have to use it, which was great. So here's some of the finished units. We've got some handicap accessible showers. There's a bathroom. I thought that's such a great view out of that bathroom. This is one of the favorites. Southeast corner, you've got east and south facing windows with kind of beautiful views out there. Stackable washer and dryer. This is a heat pump dryer. So we're trying to build airtight, right? What's the worst thing you can do in your airtight house? Probably pop a 4-inch dryer vent out the side of the building that just blows dust. And if you don't vacuum it every 6 months, you're going to start your house on fire. So this is a heat pump condensing dryer. It is basically a heat pump. It's drying BTUs out of the environment and using a dehumidification system to dry your clothes. Jen and I actually put it in our house to test it for the units. We're like, these are really good. We love it. And now we don't have lint blowing all over our patio in the back, right? And I have a big hole in my house that I can seal up. So I think that's some of the new technology that your customers will be adopting relatively soon. So a couple pictures of the outside. Here's some of the bathrooms. We did all granite, all undermount sinks, did smart cabinets. This is our post office box. We did a package locker, you know those Amazon package lockers you get at the hardware store? We did one of those in each building. That'll go in January. This is our model. So we've done some decoration on a model. There's the finished kitchen, all Energy Star appliances. GE could not deliver the refrigerators to us, so they sent us one with an ice maker in it to fill the order. But I didn't plumb for ice makers. It's just a bonus. So, but I'm telling you, Todd Erskine and I were talking about this morning at breakfast. I mean, supply chain disruption, you're all dealing with it. It's absolutely horrible. It's where I spent most of my time on the project, most of my time. Windows ended up being Burdick windows out of Canada. Got a better Energy Star level window. They were able to ship them to us because our previous manufacturer, they weren't certain they were ever going to get us our windows.
Eric,
So finished kit, yeah.
It's like ADA compliant.
They're all aging in place, Jack. So all the doors are 36 inches wide. You would be able to get a wheelchair in. 13 of the 27 units have roll-in showers with a seat, but the code requirement is 1 ADA unit per building, right? So I went with 1 because you end up, your appliance package is a little bit more. You need front controls on your cooktop, and you need front controls on your dishwasher, and you need a different kitchen sink. So we just went with 1 that's legit ADA, but they're all kind of aging in place.
What do you mean by smart cabinetry?
I don't mean anything except that's the brand name of the company. I couldn't figure out anything smart about it. No, but they're very inexpensive. But you know, I always say you put granite on anything, looks pretty darn good. Looks pretty darn good. This is one of my favorite pictures. I just feel like it's like a church, or looks something like a church in there. So I just want to give you some of the data if you're interested in developing. I know we have some folks that I've talked to in this room, but we closed this investment on October 15th. Our South Building tenant move-in was fall of 2022. We got 63 of the units pre-leased, or people moved in now. So about 18 units are already moved in. North Building will be complete here in December, January. This was pre-depreciation, had 11.72% investment rate of return with depreciation. So you get, you know why Trump doesn't want to share his taxes? It's because he's got incredible depreciation and carry forward losses that he can take. So when you go to your depreciation carry forwards, it's in excess of 20% return on investment. The buildings were completed at about $170 per square foot. Now, again, I'll get to you in 1 second. We had some advantage of some of it being quoted right before everything went crazy, but we also had about 15 to 20% in increases in cost, and we're still able to come in at about that 170. Sir? How are we doing on time?
When you're doing those granite countertops,
Yes, sir.
don't you have problems with radon?
Problems?
Radon?
Radon? I don't know. It depends where it comes out of, and most of your radon in the United States is kind of from Michigan to Colorado, Minnesota, down to, you get it down here a little bit too, but not much. You're starting to tail off. So it depends where it came out of, but I'm not sure that granite is necessarily off-gassing. So my short answer would be no, but that's not the scientific answer.
In Minnesota, where we're at, if you put in a
Well, you gave me something to do on Friday. Check it out. I've never heard of that, and I live in Minnesota too. But we do have an active radon mitigation system in the building, but that's for under slab because in the Midwest you're in that radon. And you can do passive under code in Minnesota. Just do active. You've got to put a plug in the attic anyway. Like just put the fan there. Make sure it's pressurized and safe for the occupants.
Aaron, is that one of the reasons why you went with a different roof system because of this?
I didn't decide anything on this building other than what I could fix along the way. This was pre-designed by the city and a previous person. And it was, but listen, this person wanted to use SIPs everywhere as evidenced by the interior. So there were actually some reasons I don't know if it was distance or efficacy or what, but they decided not to. So, huge supply chain disruption. Again, I think there's these great, tax increment financing districts, opportunity zones. One point I want to bring up is we used, anybody familiar with the PACE? I know I've talked to you guys about it and Eric about it a little bit. PACE? Any other PACE folks? Okay. You're going to build a project like this. It's property assessed clean energy. That depends on which state. I know some people are from Texas in here. Texas has an incredible PACE program. Minnesota has an incredible PACE program. So we got property assessed clean energy funding that paid for our extreme panels because they considered it a clean energy investment. And that $1 million grant, which ends up being bonded by the city and the county, and actually the St. Paul Port Authority helped us bond that out. That $1 million in PACE counts as part of our capital stack in the investment. So instead of us needing to have 15% of 10 million, take $1 million out of that, it's rough numbers, but it took $1 million out of the capital that was required by us as the investment team to be part of that project. So if you're looking at commercial, understand PACE. And now on our next project, there's actually a, Minnesota PACE has a decarbonization program, and I've been waiting for this, especially for what we do. They will cut you 3/4 of a point off the rate if you meet basically the Zero Energy Ready Home program for your project. There's a couple caveats in there that they developed, but it's not a big hurdle to cut 3/4 of a point on your project. So definitely take a look at PACE financing. It significantly reduces the capital that you have to put in. I mentioned 45L, that's incredible. There are these ability to work with cities, and I know we have some important folks here from local legislatures, but what we say is if we're gonna put workforce housing, and this is a market rate, right, but it's affordable, we gotta have public-private partnerships. And the more of these programs we can bring to bear, because I still have to take the risk, right? My house is still on the line, but the more we can make it doable to get these housing units where people want, that's where that public-private partnership comes in. And we need it, especially now with, I don't know what Jerome Powell's up to today, but I hope he's leaving us alone for a while. Yeah, I think they've overcooked it at the Fed. One good thing, rents 30% ahead of projections. So as we went in and modeled the pro forma on that, our rents, it's like what you read in the news. People are just need housing badly. I do want to say we had a great engineering firm that we worked with. It was at Pioneer? Pinnacle. Sorry, Pinnacle. I mean, I can't tell you how much Pinnacle was on speed dial for us and helped us through. I dodged 6 bullets with these elevators going in my building, and Pinnacle was there every step of the way. I don't know why they forgot that we had water softeners in the building, or somebody did, but Pinnacle got us the engineering to do it right. Like every little problem we had, your partner Pinnacle was there, along with, of course, Perry and Don, or sorry, Josh. Oh, that was a Freudian slip. Perry and Don. Yeah, I want to buy it. Period, Josh.
Aaron, I can say that at Pinnacle, they actually share our education too.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, Pinnacle was great. The energy model in the building, I was just doing some math. So the building was modeled at $37 per unit to heat and cool. I just got my utility bill for the South building. You know what $1,000 divided by 27 units is? It's freaking scary. $37. But part of what we did, and this is, we've talked about this a little bit, but the understanding is that it's $200 or $300 to heat and cool your unit. So utilities are included in our rent. And this is part of that affordability, I think, that you can do is, it costs what it costs to build nowadays. I don't know if it's $170 or $200 a square foot. I used to know down to the penny what it costs to build. I don't know anymore. Depends, right? But where we can really help people out is the total cost of ownership, whether it's being in an EPT house or one of the great houses that you build, whether it's being in an EPT apartment. If we can keep the utilities down, that's what really hurts families, because they'll come in and they will qualify. Oh yeah, I can make $800 a month. And it was so funny. I worked at the county fair in Rock County. I was talking to people, and they'd come up and say, "Well, your units are too expensive." And I'm like, "Well, what are you paying now?" "Well, I pay $735 a month." I said, "What are your utility bills?" "Like $300 a month." I said, "Well, then ours are less. You can get in here for $900, and that is guaranteed every month. Period." But you have to sell that total cost of ownership thing, right? Quick story on a builder friend of mine out of Texas, and he builds off-grid houses. He said, "Aaron, 15% of my customers are environmentalists." He said, 25% are preppers, off-gridders, forget the government. He said 60% are economists. They look at the numbers on the economics of building a green, sustainable home and doing it the right way. They go, "Well, do you know what, have you looked at your utility bill this year? Do you know what your utilities went up? 18%. That's going to break a lot of people. It's horrible. They need what we can do in this room." Sorry, question was over here. Sir.
How do you address the fact that somebody might just leave the window open all winter?
Repeat the question.
How do you address the fact that somebody might leave the window open all winter? I haven't thought about that one yet.
Well, you have to be here to know what.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to see.
The victim.
A little harder in Minnesota. I don't know. I think that's working with the renters. I will tell you that our renters skewed more young professionals in the community. They really wanted a nice place to live. We did full security system in the building, so we upgraded and I used to work for Yale, but I love Yale locks. We did the Yale Essentra system. We upgraded the entire building to a fire protection system, which then you don't need to have egress windows if you do fire protection. Wasn't that bad to do a fire protection system, and I sleep better at night. I know Jen and I were watching the news, and I saw this apartment building on fire, and I said, I never want to be that guy. I never want. It's a little bit more money for peace of mind. And by the way, total cost of ownership to you as the developer, guess what your insurance does if you have a fire protection system? Drops by about 25%. And insurance is horrible right now in the United States, depending where you live. Let's go to the next slide. So just a quick property description. You can see this on the website. We can talk about it later. How am I doing? 5? 5, okay. A little bit of the property description. So this is what we're seeing on rents. So you've got the 1-bedroom, 1-bath, $556. There's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $790. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, that's about $872. So that's the average rents, total rent per month. The site size, occupancy. These are some of the room layouts. I guess if I had to do it again, I did 1-bedroom, 1-baths, and I thought those would be harder, and those sold out. And I would have done more. I actually would have done studios 1-1s and only 2-1s. So our 2-2s are hard. And I think if you go back a slide, I think our 2-2s, I'm dropping down a little bit I think I dropped them to $13.95 to try to move them. And we'll probably end up doing some incentives on those to get that property stabilized. Next slide. So room layouts, next one. I left this in, but this will be our third phase. And again, from a developer perspective and what we want to do, the speed of the build, the control of the long-term costs of operating that building, the quietness that we get, that's building number 3 that we're planning on. Once we hit 60% occupancy, we'll go to building number 3 on that property, and we'll call that the B building. And I think our hope is to build several more B buildings across the Midwest. Next slide. I just want to show you our next project after that. So I'm really interested in microgrids, solar, and batteries. You know, we've got a diesel generator here on site running the property, and you can hear it. But we're within a close period of time where you're going to have a battery. I mean, I so badly wanted to drive my F-150 Lightning down here and get you all a chance to see it. But it's a mobile battery. I think we figured it out. If you had to buy a Tesla Powerwall equivalent to the size of my F-150, it would cost you $125,000. I had my Tesla. We had a power outage at our house, our neighborhood. I powered 3 neighbors' houses for 6 hours, 8 hours in the neighborhood and used 5% of my battery charge. So you're going to get to the point where, think about these remote, if you're building remote cabins, cottages, that F-150 or that electric vehicle is going to pull in that garage. It's going to be the battery backup. Off-grid capable, we are that close to everything being off-grid capable. You couple that with 6 kilowatts of solar on the rooftop to recharge that truck, which then runs the house, you're there for off-grid capable. So this is a huge shift. So I think we start to look at it as, on a community, how can we give that community resilience? This is not a unique event. People say, oh, the power doesn't go out. Who's here from Texas again? How did that work out? ERCOT? Was reliability? I don't know about that. So how can we get these neighborhoods completely off the grid, completely self-sufficient, completely self-sustaining? How can we do some agri-hood type of things in there? How can we get to decarbonization? You know, some of you will talk about offsets a little bit tomorrow. You can buy offsets on your projects. You can decarbonize them as much as you want. But what if you can do insets? What if you can make that land better than it was? I mean, we bought this land that's, I'm sure it's had anhydrous ammonia dumped on it for the last 100 years, and it's been somewhat productive cropland. The crop production index was pretty good on it. But how do we give back to that soil and give back to nature within that community? So that's really the next goal, next one. So this is our next project. So we've purchased 64 acres. We've annexed it into Cannon Falls. Anybody know where Cannon Falls, Minnesota is? Talk about a cute small town, right, Casey? Is it gorgeous? It's wine country in Minnesota. Oh, there's no climate change, though. Don't worry about it. Do you know, I'm sorry, I know I have 1 minute, but I have to tell my Apple story. So I think it was the New York Times went out to Minnesota in about 1858 when it became a state. And they said, this is such God-forsaken country that you can't even grow apples there. And we got a land-grant university. And the University of Minnesota said, we're going to prove them wrong. And do you know where the top apple lab in the United States, in the world probably today? I mean, thank God for Honeycrisp apples. That's the best damn apple going. And then the new Pizzazz and the new First Kiss, and those are all University of Minnesota. So they got really mad and created these apple varieties that grew up north, which is great. So this is my partner Mark and I doing the site selection. It's just beautiful by the Cannon River. Next slide. Here's Cannon Falls. We're 32 minutes from the airport in Minneapolis, but most importantly, there's a new $5 billion hospital going in Rochester. Next slide. I just want to show you. So we do all this stuff. You know, you look at the vegetation. So we're going to do, these are called mansion townhomes. So this will be all SIP mansion townhomes. From the street, they read as a single family property, but then there's 6 or 8 units inside. So it kind of fits. And I told the architects I want like Swedish farmhouse meets Frank Lloyd Wright. I don't even know what that means, but that's what I told the architects. I think they did a good job. Let's go to the next one. So this will be the phase one with the mansion homes, and this kind of abuts an old neighborhood and a factory. Then we get up into this Swedish farmstead property. And I can't tell you that I wasn't inspired by Lou Oliver and P. Allen Smith on this. So what we've done is, instead of the typical neighborhood where you put in 120 houses, 10 feet apart, and it looks like garbage, these are little Swedish farmsteads, little blocks of 6 or 8 houses in the cul-de-sac, kind of like the Habitat project you had up there a little bit, right? And then here's the apple orchard with the apiary. Here's the fishing. We have this now. This is the fishing and skating pond. This is agrivoltaics they have their own farm block. This one is the dog park. This one is going to be where the animals are in there. So we're building in this agri-hood community, but these are all build to rent, net zero, where we can keep the cost really low. We want to keep the square footages really small, so they're 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, but it'll all be a complete rental community. And I would say on this, the architect sent me these, and I was like, no, it's more like this, and it's more like this, and it's more like this. It's a lot like your project out on Grays, is that on Grays Bay? You had it on your website. That beautiful, it looked a lot like this one maybe. Was it on Grays Bay?
Robinson Bay.
Robinson Bay, yeah. I literally took your Robinson Bay picture and sent it back to my architects. I said, like this. And they're like, okay, we got it. It's like this.
Yep.
So that's kind of the typology for it. Yeah. And we'll talk more tomorrow about our ESG, but it's really looking at this triple bottom line, right? Looking at sustainability across the board, looking at people, planet, profit, and I think I'm done on that one. Yeah. And that's it. Any final questions before? I'll be around. You have to listen to me again tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you the 13 things you must do, in my opinion. And again, please join. I'll tell you, I learned more from EPT and at these, but I learned a lot. I really wanted to deep dive into a particular technology, EBA Partner. It's free, and I think we have 270 hours of online learning if you want to learn more about any of the topics that I've talked about today. So with that, I'll turn it back. Thanks so much. This stuff is really good.
Well done, Aaron. Thank you so much. All right. Aaron, at the top of his talk, talked about the importance of clean air, and I think we've got to consider that more and more. And when you go down to the Gatehouse Cottages, and we'll do that after Teresa Lopez's talk after lunch, and you'll see we've got our Panasonic system in there. When we built this farmhouse, that was 17 years ago, and indoor air quality was a huge issue for me. And that was in the early days of no VOC paint. We found it, we did it, we used no VOC paints. We used tung oil for the floors. When you go in the house, we're gonna do a tour of the house on Wednesday evening. The tung oil floors, that's how they were finished, pine. They were Georgia longleaf pine. Have not been treated with anything in 17 years, and the tung oil did it. And so it was just really important that we ventilate that house right. But it's improved so much more over time. And clean air is a big part of what EPT is about, Extreme Panel Technologies. All right, so we will break for lunch. The lunch bell, the farm bell, will ring at noon, and lunch will be served. I would suggest between now and then that you get to know one another and have a bio break if you need to. We'll gather back under the tent, and then we'll come back and we'll hear Ms. Teresa Lopez talk about green appraisals and the future, and the difference between building a greenhouse and its value and the same house built over here that doesn't have all the green bells and whistles that we have heard from Aaron about his beautiful project in Laverne. All right? So thank you very much. We'll see you back in here after lunch. You know, when we built the farmhouse 17 years ago, and I was so emphatic about implementing these various practices of green building back in those days, and again, 17 years ago. And so when I had the house appraised, I was like shocked. It's like no consideration was given for the fact that the walls were this much thicker. And you all get to see the house. We're going to open it for cocktails tomorrow night, and you can kind of see the house itself. You know, standing seam roof, passive solar on the south face underneath the standing seam roof, PEX tubing, ICF foundation, blah, 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 all this stuff, you know, and rainwater harvesting. That meant nothing. But finally, as you know, the world turns, time passes. You know, we did this cottage down here. We got a little more credit for the work that we had done. And now we're doing these 2 gatehouse cottages that we'll all go down and see after we hear from Teresa Lopez. Now we're going to have we have a virtual audience that's following us. So we are going to follow Josh and Perry and Eric and Nathan down, and I will go down there and they will explain the cottages. You all will split 50-50 and then go through them. And then I'm going to be interviewing Casey Stabeck with Panasonic, and then we'll move over to Kevin Burke at Energy Raiders. So we'll be taping while you all are milling around, so I'm just giving you all a heads up. So back to green appraisals. I'm thrilled to have from Texas, Teresa Lopez, to talk about green money and how we can all take advantage of the future and what's ahead of us. Thank you, Teresa, for being here.
Well, thank you,
It's
and
a
thanks
real
for the
thrill.
stellar introduction.
Well, absolutely.
I wish
Thank
I'd been there to help you.
I know. Where have you been my whole life?
Waiting for you.
I know.
Waiting for all of y'all, actually. I am Teresa Lopez. I'm a recovering mortgage banker. And I wear 2 hats. I've been in the mortgage industry for, I'll date myself now, since Carter administration. So I started when rates were 18 to 22%. So I've pretty much seen it all until now. Now I can say I've really seen it all. And I also have a company called Green Energy Money, where I specialize in green economics and finding solutions. It's an education as marketing platform. In my mortgage banker hat, I want to say that I work for a fabulous company called First United Bank. It's one of the best cultures that I've ever worked in on the financial industry side. Their byline is spend life wisely, which I thought is such a great hit for us, for our group and our culture that we're building here. I've been working with First United for only a few short months, but it's been the best experience as far as them getting this and getting online and being very astute with financial literacy, which just kind of falls into that category a lot. So I'm not an appraiser, but I am a licensed national mortgage banker, and we're in all 50 states. So I want to jump right into the valuing side. This is a deep dive, guys. I tried to make this tailor fit for this audience and actually created a special present at the end for you all. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is an appraisal? What is it? It's supposed to be an unbiased opinion of value that's delivered and done by someone who is competent and capable of doing the order, and typically they're licensed and recognized in the industry. It's supposed to be supported by sales data and property data. So how does an appraisal work? Well, it works by location, age, size, the condition of the property. So all of these things go into factoring what is the value of the property, terms and conditions of sales, and the upgrade. So under the upgrade section, the high performance measures are really part of the real value of what we're talking about here. So it's not, you have a house, right? A house is a house. You have a house and it has walls and it has all these things in it, but what makes this different and unique is the actually high performance measures. And there's several different methods and methodologies that are used in the appraisal industry. They're the sales comparison, which is it's called the paired sales analysis. That's the most common one. The second one is the cost approach, and the third one is the income approach. And the reason that I put this up there is this is very important information for you all to know, is that on a sales comparison, the reason that it's done primarily on the mortgage side, that all the investors require it, is because they're looking at resale. They're looking at marketability, saleability. Is this property going to continue to appreciate? What are the factors on it? So even though when we're using this, the cost approach should be the approach that's used for the construction industry. So when you're comparing the cost of a value of a home to a comparison of what the other homes are selling for, if they're 40 and 50 years old, it's not a fair comparison, is it? And that's what you're getting a lot of in the later adapter markets, where you're seeing the houses that are brand new are being compared to the older homes. And it's just, I have an argument about this on a weekly basis with my team of people and the appraisal industry as a whole about why we can't use the cost approach, and their whole answer back is because the lender dictates it. So I'm going to share that you can have 100 appraisals done on one property, but if you don't have a lender that is competent as well, you cannot get that deal and that transaction closed, because there's going to be a lot of pushback with them not accepting that appraisal. I work on a consulting basis where I help folks that already have a lender. I've helped them get appraisals. Some of them would accept it, some of them wouldn't. Sometimes we did 3 or 4, they still didn't believe us. They still went and did another one. So anyway, those are best uses of when we're talking about residential. Now, when you're talking about multifamily and investment, you're using the income capitalization approach. So basically, we're looking at all the things on the commercial income, the expenses. It's very easy to do a green appraisal on an investment cap approach, because you already know what the operating expense reductions is. Why is it easy? Because of HERS. If it hadn't been for HERS coming along, I wouldn't be standing up here before you today. I would share that the whole community of HERS raters are my heroes, and SIPs are my heroes. All of y'all in this home, we're all pioneers here. So most of the appraisers, again, want to use the cost approach. They do use the cost approach on residential, but they also have to use the sales comparison. And I just had a deal in Dallas where the guy had a brand new ICF home. It's not even built. We're just closing on the construction loan now. And they compared his home to a 41-year-old home. First comp was a 41-year-old house, $1 million less. And this was a green appraiser, and the reason was because the lender dictated that he had to use the sales comparison. And that comparison for the lot size and the square footage was identically a match for the subject property. So that does happen. It's not, there always is going to be some problem that comes along that you have to solve. You know, that's always, it's like construction. Lending is the same kind of approach, only I do both. So what does that make me crazy? I'm not sure. So on these, I wanted to show you on the HERS index where we're going with the energy codes and why this is so important to the appraisal side of the industry, because this is how we quantify the value of homes. So right now, DOE, Net Energy Ready Code, is going down to, depends on the region, but between 52 to 58. Do you agree with that, Aaron? Yeah. 52 to 58. And right now, where we've been on 21 is it's going to be in the mid to low 60s. Where we are on the Energy Star, which is where most of the 09-18 code has been around a HERS 85. That's really the 09 code. So the HERS index was a way that we were able to quantify and monetize, very important, what the value of these homes was. And for the formula, just to be real quick about it, for every dollar saved on your energy bill equals out to be between $18 to $20 per dollar saved in value. That's the easy formula to use. Now, when we're using the present value formula, because rates are going up, the spread has now gone down. of course, because of interest rates going up. So I'm working on that issue right now to be able to come up with a solution to be able to add the delta, and I believe that's going to come from the carbon not the operational, but the embodied carbons. We can probably get there from there. So this is what did I do? How do I go back? What? One more, there we go. So this is what I call the holy grail of so in the appraisal on the grid that I'm going to show next, I did this on purpose I'll flip it back if anyone needs to see this. But what we did is we took the condition of a property is a C1 through a C6 on the appraisal, right? Quality of construction is a Q1 to Q6. When Fannie Mae originally adopted this new formula on the condition of the property and the quality, they added an E rating on the grid, but they didn't assign it a value of 1 to 5 at all. They said if there is no energy efficiency in the property, then add none or typical. So the appraisers automatically interpreted this. And Josh, I think that happened to you with your appraisal, where across the grid on Josh's home in 2018, we did a case study and they wrote none and typical, even though it was a SIP panel, totally high performance home. They still didn't get that. So this is a way now for the appraisers to go, oh, this is a way to correlate the HERS with the E rating on the appraisal to be able to add that monetized value of that 5-8% value. So this is where we're at the DOE ready. Version 2, this would be an E2, whereas right now most of the inventory that's in the market is an E3. The older homes, what's unfair about what has happened now with the HERS, in my opinion, is that the energy cost, sorry, what's happened is they are now comparing it to the IECC 2015 on the HERS. So now when you have a comp in a late adapter market like Arkansas, you're going to be comparing it to an 09 house in most cases, or even older than that. So now the spread doesn't look as good as it doesn't tell the story, is what I'm trying to say, because a lot of E3 inventory isn't even in Arkansas yet, okay? Does that make sense? So here's the grid of what an appraisal looks like. So I'm not going to go through every single line item, but where the yellow arrows are is where I really wanted to point out. So here you have the quality of construction. You see that Q3? This is another point of contention for me because on a SIP panel home, high performance building should, in my opinion, be an E1, not a Q3, or Q1, not a Q3. You see, because it's a better quality of construction. So a high performance home costs more to build. It should get a higher Q rating. I have this argument with the appraisal community on a regular basis. Someday I may win the battle. They do, however, recognize the condition. So the C1, you see a lot on the high performance. And this actually was, I think this was a SIP, this actually was an ICF home. Okay. So C3, you can see where they put an adjustment here. Well, here is your E rating. So now we have the E1, you see that? So we're standardizing the E rating now. So all the appraisers on our panel, I want to back up to say I work with a national appraisal management company in all 50 states. Since 2014, we've had a relationship, never had a contract, never had anything in writing. They've been the most awesome partners I can't even describe how great the relationship is. So they help me grow the market. So when I have a new territory, make a phone call, guys coming in from Minneapolis now, I need to get some appraisers. They go and call the appraisers, they get them on a call, then we do a webinar and we train them. After the training, we also vet the appraisal when it comes back. So that's kind of how the process works. And then they become part of our green panel. So when we have a green project, that panel is the only panel that gets to touch this deal as a project, an appraiser. And now I'm going to show you how we got around that. It's a really cool thing. So anyway, you can see that this was an 8.5% green premium. Their energy savings were $37.60. So if you do the math, you'll figure out that what I said, well, it's actually $15 to $20 because the present value formula has dropped a little bit. and the annual energy cost was $1,000 a month. And that's very significant to a lender. So you can see the Q, C, and E rating. Any questions so far?
Just your energy efficient items along here.
Well, normally, what I normally have the appraiser do in this case, I can't always get them to do it. I have them put the two major features of that home on the E line. There just isn't a lot of room, as you can see. But usually they'll put, most of ours you'll see solar, SIPs, ICF, rainwater. We do a lot of rainwater harvesting, sole source. I cracked the code on that, got Fannie Mae to do it. So it's now, part of the guidelines of being able to accept that. So there's a lot of work that has to go into getting the industry to change, to adapting to this kind of market. Here is where I thought, when I started in the industry here, I thought we were at the tipping point then. That's how long I've been at this, guys. So it's really great to be standing in this room and having a story to tell you from way back when. But the actual truth is we're just hitting the tipping point now. What I mean by that is I mean market adoption. So we have our early adopters, which were Austin, Oregon, Washington, California. Those are the early adopter areas. Then you have your mid adapters or adopters, and that's the mid adopters is like Dallas, Houston. You're in a mid to late. You're kind of in the middle of that mid to late. On the late adopters, I don't know. Those guys probably still don't even have, they still have their landlines. I don't know that they'll ever adapt, that's kind of the story. So I also see that there's a potential mortgage write-down because there's a lot of deferred maintenance in the market right now. There are a lot of the buildings, older buildings, I would say probably 40% of our building inventory in the country needs a lot of love and a lot of support. And if we're going to get to a decarbonized market, we have to start paying attention to the retrofit. So I wanted to say, anybody in the room that's interested in that, I'd love to speak with you about it. So, green premium is what happens when you get a green premium on your energy efficiency line item, right? That's the adjustment that the appraiser is giving you credit for your green features. The brown discount is what we're seeing on the C rating. So the condition of the property is actually showing, and right now we're getting appraisals at C4s. Guys, that means their life cycle is less than 10 years. And people are getting 30-year loans on a 10-year life cycle building. And this is what's happening in our market, and the industry doesn't recognize it. I sit in front of my peers and I say, what are your assets and your collateral? Oh, we're doing AAA assets. I said, really, what is that? They go, well, we've got good credit scores, FICOs, great reserves. And I said, but what about your collateral? I mean, isn't that what you're lending on is the building? So in 2008-9, when the market shifted, we went from an asset-based market to a credit-based market, which meant that all of the energy went from not looking at the actual collateral of the property to looking at the credit profile of the borrower. Well, that shifted everything to where most lenders don't even know what's in their portfolio. In fact, I wrote a blog about it, what's in your portfolio, because most of them don't realize that they're seeing that's another potential market bust of a write-down. So this is high deferred maintenance, low quality asset, declining regional markets. These are all happening. Drive anywhere across America and you see it in every city, right? Every little town you drive through needs a lot of love. If there's anybody even there, usually it's a liquor store. I counted them. I like to do road trips. And it's it's a lottery store, and a little convenience store, and that's pretty much their whole infrastructure. So the premium does average between 5 to 11%. I want to say that Fannie Mae allows up to a 15% adjustment. So that line item on the energy efficiency can go up to 15%, guys. The highest I've ever seen is 11. That was in Fort Collins, Colorado, on a fourplex that had its own electric vehicle with it. So the car actually came with the house. Now builders I'm working with are looking to incentivize. I said, why don't you lease electric vehicles? They were going to build elevators. I said, instead of giving the people an elevator, why don't you give them an electric vehicle as a lease? They were like, great idea. Let's look at that. So I think this is going to shift up to a very higher premium, as you've seen with LEED for home, not LEED for homes, but LEEDs on commercial. The LEED average is about 22% on the premium now, because we can quantify those energy savings so well now on buildings, thanks to HERS. So this is the C3 through through C6 on the brown discount, and then this would be on the green premium side. So there we're seeing a 3 to 8% adjustment the wrong way down on these older homes now, starting to show up in the marketplace. So this is a very important thing that I'm about to share with you. The competency ruling, the air policy was the appraisal independent requirement. So this was made, it was through USPAP, who is controlling and governing the entire appraisal industry. And they came up with a competency ruling saying that an appraiser must determine prior to agreeing to the assignment that they can perform the assignment competently. But most appraisers don't even know what that means, and most lenders have no clue. So you have an incompetent order desk ordering an incompetent appraiser who has no idea what he's even appraising, or she. And in all cases, the appraiser must perform competently to complete the assignment. So how we get around by having our green panel of appraisers is by saying these are competent appraisers. They're skilled in the art of being able to appraise this type of a building. This is a very important thing for you to remember, and I'm going to have a test at the end. And everybody that answers, only 2 people get a gift. So identify the problem to be addressed, is that's the other thing they were trying to do. So what is the problem to be addressed? The problem to be addressed is what? What is this building worth? What's it worth? How much is this component that I'm putting in my home worth? What are the things and measures that I'm performing able to do? And they must have the knowledge and experience to complete that order and complete it competently. So as a Christmas present to my builder team, they were the first ones to see this. Matt Belcher, does anyone know Matt? So Matt Belcher was at University of Missouri, and he came up with this addendum for builders to use in their contracts to keep his deals from busting out, because he wasn't able to get people to appraise it competently or lend on it competently. So he kind of put us